everyone. Well, today we are talking with Sean Ford, and he's the head of bids and contracts at Acacian Group. And they are actually a world leader in the health and life sciences field. And Sean has been with them for a number of years. But Sean, you've got an interesting journey with the company. It's you started with one company, and it actually had a global acquisition, and you've grown the bid team to now a global presence, and you're ahead of that. That would be correct?
That's right. So I joined the company as a lowly bid coordinator 14 years ago when it was just one company, and that was Pulse Healthcare. And over the years, it's kind of grown and grown both organically and through acquisition. So in 2010, it joined forces with another healthcare staffing agency to become the UK market leader in pretty much every category of healthcare staffing in the UK. And over the years subsequent since 2010, we've grown even further through more acquisitions. We've added more services under our belt. We've established more international locations. So yes, certainly over the last 10 years, the company has grown phenomenally from a company with just 238 employees to one that now employs about 1,700.
That's incredible. And so what have you seen change in the industry from going from that SME, small to medium enterprise number, through to a global enterprise? And so what have you seen in terms of industry change, market changes, and for you personally as a bid manager?
So I think one of the main things that we've seen is that we've had to grow up a little bit. So we've had to become a lot more corporate in our central kind of services. So from a bid environment in particular, where we were a fairly still a fairly busy team, we've obviously got busier and busier as we've grown, and obviously as the group has grown, because we're a centralized function, we've had to grow with the group. So the team has got bigger, the expertise within the team has had to diversify. But also, like I say, we've had to make sure that our processes that we follow have evolved and are robust enough to deal with flexibility. Mm-hmm. So because obviously acquisitions in particular can come around quite quickly, and prior to an announcement of an acquisition, it's a very closed group of people that are aware of the transaction that's taking place. And then the team, from a bid perspective, has to mobilize very quickly in order to bring that new business within the fold. And that's quite a steep learning curve. In terms of the market and the industry, obviously we're now dealing with not just the UK. We are bidding over in Australia. We are bidding over in the United States. We are doing a lot of bids in Europe. So having that kind of education around the different types of process that need to be followed from a formal perspective is quite a steep learning curve that we've had to adjust to. But the team have done remarkably well in actually achieving that, and still maintaining a fantastic success.
How many on your team now, and what is the changes you've seen in bid team structure? How many on your team now, and how many more do you see now involved in an organizational bid?
Yeah, so we've now got 7 in the bid team. So we are very well. I say 7. There's 8 if you include myself. So we're a very productive team. But that is going to continue to grow as as the group continues to diversify. We're going more and more global. Mm-hmm. So it's highly expected. We have to pull in expertise in country, particularly around legal resource within those countries. But the team themselves, I'm expecting over the next kind of 12 to 18 months to have to at least add another 1 or 2 people to that team to accommodate the growth of the group. I'm sure there's going to be more acquisitions over that time period, and the latest acquisitions are being embedded within our bid process as we speak, and they've only been part of the group for less than 2 months. So wow. The team are having to get to understand exactly what that new company that's now part of the Acacian Group, what they do, how they operate, and pull the bid expertise in-house. And we've got a good reputation across the group for a team that delivers, a team that is successful, and has strong processes in place that enables these businesses to kind of seamlessly integrate with the group function and get the support they need so they can do what they do best and we do what we do best.
I think that's an excellent segue to talking about transition and change management and I guess the cultural melting pot. And so it's clear that you've gone from being a functional unit to being a strategic function of the organization, that you're now very much got a place at the boardroom table. Your bidding team is now moving into M&A, merger and acquisition preparation, and all of that due diligence that I guess it fits lovely. It's nice fit with the risk management and the due diligence side of things. Talk us through about how you implemented change in your bidding process, from taking it from a relatively manual, manual function through to an organizational wide digital transformation program.
Yes, so we started out, as I'm sure everyone does, with a very manual process, a very manual set of tools that to help manage the bid activity and the bid process. So a lot of that was down to kind of shared folder libraries for knowledge, for the knowledge resource, the content library, to Excel spreadsheets to keep tabs and track bid processes, win rates, and how successful the bid team were. And for a number of years, there was always this kind of utopian concept with myself that actually that process and that kind of operation didn't need to be manual, but there was nothing around at the time, and I'd been looking for a number of years that combined both the content creation, the content library management, with the actual tracking of a bid process, the statistical reporting, the KPIs, the kind of the visual dynamic of having a single view that you could see everything that was happening and active and live within the bid team. And then I happened to see an advert for BidHive, and got in touch with the lovely team there, and Nairi in particular, and we started discussing the BidHive concept. And what really resonated with us was the fact that we as a bid team were evolving, and at the same time that BidHive itself was being kind of developed, that we felt that it was a good synergy that we could evolve together, and that our process could grow at the same time as BidHive itself. Now, the initial pain for me in particular was the copious reporting and the obscurity that was in that by doing that process manually. So one of the things that we looked at first was introducing the kind of the opportunity tracking element of BidHive, to create this kind of digital platform within our team, that allowed us to constantly be able to refer back to all of the bids that were happening and were active within our team at any one time. That had a couple of kind of slightly unexpected benefits, because the dashboard, and whilst we knew the value of what we were doing, things like the return on investment and the actual pound sterling amount that we were winning for the company became very apparent very quickly once that data started running through BidHive itself.
Do you feel, Sean, I want to jump in here because this resonates very, very much with a lot of people we speak to, that bid teams have been the poor cousin or the invisible, function of the enterprise sales in the organisation.
Yeah.
From a, I guess, an executive point of view, how was that for you to be able to validate how much you actually bring in, and quantify what you bring into that organisation?
It was hugely valuable, and it's like you said earlier, it's brought us very much more into the spotlight, particularly with the board itself. So our company is very good at recognising exceptional performance, and historically, kind of many years ago, before we kind of started using the functionality of BidHive, I remember very well the chief exec at the time, at our annual kind of sales and management conference that we had. And he would handwrite cards to everyone in the management team, and they would be left in the hotel bedroom, and to thank them for the work that they do. And I think on a number of occasions, I remember reading the card that had been written with my name on it, and referring to the bid team as the unsung heroes of the business. And that was, whilst it was appreciated and that was known, now that there is that kind of transparency, that visibility, we're not the unsung heroes of the company anymore. We're very much front and center within and embedded within the business development, the sales processes, and the strategic development of each of the businesses within the group. Awesome. So when they're looking at new markets and new diversified services to offer, they're consulting with us because we have visibility of the bids and the opportunities that might be in that space. We've got value to add to what they're doing, and we can help them justify any business case for diversification.
Oh, it's about time. Oh, and so talk us through the actual change methodology. Did you use any recognized models, or it just came as an intuitive, this is what we must do to roll out BidHive and to get it accepted across not only an organisation, but an organisation going through exponential rapid change? And when I say change, I mean, your organisation's doing the COVID vaccinations, you're doing the NHS, you've got so much going on in the front line. How did you sell BidHive as being able to let the business do what it does best, and you've got the back end sorted and you've got the business development sorted?
Yeah, so our approach was more intuitive than anything else. I mean, we've most of the bid managers have done some form of project management or Prince2 methodology and everything else. But the approach that we wanted to take was less of a big bang approach, because that didn't feel like it would work for us. And especially whilst we were going through so much change, it felt like dealing with the main, suppose the main pain point, which was the tracking of the bids, was the natural place to start. But it meant that we could kind of sell it into the rest of the business, because it would give transparency, it would give visibility, and it would give time back to a lot of different people, particularly myself. That meant that we didn't have to track this manually. We didn't have to spend time filling in Excel spreadsheets in order to get the statistics that we wanted. So we did this as a phased kind of implementation with the organization. We're very much a technology enabled organization anyway. So it was really an easy sell to be fair, that we knew that this that BidHive would bring benefits to us, both in terms of cost and time savings, and it would give that degree of kind of transparency and ongoing governance that we needed. But it would also help us evolve our process as we went through, so that when we then started using the functionality of the cards and the capture plan, the bid no bid, and we've developed those as we've gone through, and it's allowed us to kind of, I suppose, revisit and kind of go back to basics with each part of our process and understand, well, does that bit work? How do we need to change it? And how does BidHive fit into that? So over the last couple of years, we've really kind of developed and honed our process on the basis that BidHive is very much an integral part of that, to the point that we're now at the stage where we are developing and pulling through to BidHive all of our content, so that we're starting to use it in a much more robust and a much more all-encompassing way, so that the kind of next phase of our development with BidHive is rolling it out to additional stakeholders within the group, to allow them access to BidHive. We've taken an approach where we've kind of planted seeds all along the way, so that we've allowed people and shown people the bits of BidHive that we are using and that will be relevant for them, so that when they come to be given access, they are already sold on the idea of using it, and the way that BidHive will work to kind of increase and improve the collaborative nature of what the bid team do with the subject matter experts within each part of the business. And as the group grows, that's becoming increasingly important, because whilst we might be diversifying the services and what we are doing, we're also diversifying in terms of our geographic reach. Yeah. And with time zones and availability, that becomes increasingly difficult. And really, particularly with because we've been developing it as we've gone through this kind of global pandemic situation with COVID, it's helped us really hone our skills in being able to do that and to work remotely, because all of the bid team now, they don't work in the same office anymore. They're not sat next to one another anymore, so they are working and interacting in a much more digital way, and we really see BidHive as being kind of an integral part of doing that and evolving how we do that, particularly with subject matter experts.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that as devastating as the pandemic has been, it's really fast-tracked digital uptake in what has traditionally been quite a dinosaur industry, and trying to get people on board with digital in bidding and procurement has been a constant source of delay. But we're now starting to see a lot more HTML bids or tenders being released, yeah. a lot less paper driven. Finally,
we don't see any paper responses anymore. When I first started with the company, everything was paper based, and then gradually it moved to having to send burned CD-ROMs, to then having to send USB sticks, to then being emailed, and now everything is portal driven. So it's very rare that you get the opportunity to actually print something in hard copy. But as for us, that's absolutely fine. We promote our services in a digital way on the front end, so it makes sense for us to kind of practice what we preach and adopt a digital structure to our support functions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Sean, have you had any, or how have you managed the challenges or potential pushback to a platform like BidHive? Do you have any advice for anyone who's working with perhaps older generation who are really entrenched in their ways of working, and how do you bring them along on that change?
So the way that I approached it specifically with my team, and I've got a mix of people. I've got a couple of let's say technophobes in the team, but I think with the intuitive nature of BidHive and how easy it is to use and navigate around, it's not difficult to kind of pick it up. And particularly with those people, it's about kind of the repetition and the introducing it piece by piece. So the way we structured it with them was that we introduced it piece by piece, and we initially, before we rolled the kind of access and we gave them access, I made sure that I was 100% familiar with every part of the system. So I think expressing it in a way that kind of spoke to them and spoke to their pains as well as my own, in that actually it would save them time and effort, because they wouldn't have to give me a report every week of all of the things that they had been doing. It would all be logged and catalogued on BidHive already. So actually that meant that an hour or more of their week was given back to them. So kind of relaying the benefits at each stage, and then kind of setting the scene for the next stage and the next piece of BidHive that we were going to roll out, worked really well for us. But it also meant that because we had myself in particular, but there were others in the team that kind of picked it up much more quickly, and understood all of the different interactions with the different parts of BidHive, meant that there was plenty of kind of coaching available to kind of show them how to do something, and particularly with things like, and particularly in the last 12 to 18 months, with the kind of the capability of video conferencing like we're doing now, meant that we could screen share, we could walk through, we could show those people that perhaps weren't really understanding the dynamic of what they needed to do. But to be absolutely brutally honest, because BidHive is so intuitive and so easy to use and so easy to follow and aesthetically looking on the screen, it wasn't difficult for them to pick it up very quickly. So that actually that first stage of logging everything and recording everything on BidHive was almost instant. There was no lag for kind of certain people perhaps not doing what they needed to do. It was everyone saw the benefit from the get-go.
I think we've been, a lot of people have that fear of enterprise software change, because I think they have experienced the behemoth, major implementation rollouts that take years, and we are now living in a consumer application world where we've been able to study human behavior and human consumption of applications, and so we brought those principles to BidHive. And being a first generation bid platform, we're not having to necessarily entrench anything other than the status quo, which is your Microsoft suite, which we can still work with. But I think people have probably had a bad experience with enterprise software previously, and so when they come to BidHive, in the first instance, they might come with some preconceived ideas that aren't necessarily, as you say, it's very intuitive, and it is based on those principles of user-centric, usability.
Absolutely, and I completely agree with that assessment, that actually that's why we didn't go with the Big Bang approach, because we've been there before, where something is kind of an off-the-shelf solution, and that has never worked well. Whereas BidHive is very different, because it's not off the shelf, it's very much kind of tailored, it's bespoke, and it's, I think the beauty of it is that it's been built by bid professionals, people that understand the bid process, the parts of the bid process and how they work, which means that for other bid professionals, it's easier to understand the logic behind the different parts of BidHive and why they do what they do.
That's a funny thing you touch on there, because we do all have our own language. We have our own in-jokes. How did you sell BidHive, the process, to your executive team when they may have, you're trying to dislodge existing ways of working? And, you know, how did you sell that to them to say, hey, actually, this is a fit for purpose platform? How did you get that over the line when you probably don't even speak the language they do? Like, how did that happen?
It was, yeah. So, I mean, that piece, like I said, we're a very kind of technology-driven company, and I think that with all of the changes that were happening at the time that we kind of identified and that BidHive was who we wanted to work with, I think the main sell for the executive team in particular was the fact that that we could go on this kind of journey of redevelopment, of evolution with our process alongside alongside the BidHive platform, so that we could kind of go at the same sort of speed and get there together. And that's always been kind of it kind of tugs at the heartstrings, really, that we've got a company that we work with that is so attuned and so consultative, that it works for us. And I think that was one of the major selling points, was the fact that it wasn't just a kind of buy a load of licenses and get on with it. It was a case of, actually, we want to work collaboratively with you. We want to develop with you. That really kind of embedded it as a company that we wanted to work with. And that's always worked very well in the past, where where we are able to work collaboratively with someone that can develop and arrive at a solution that fits us, because we are, for want of a better phrase, we are unique. There's no one else out there that does the full range of what we do. So we needed something unique, and we found that in BidHive.
I mean, I think we're unique. I don't know, you know, our users think we're unique, and we're thoroughly enjoying walking the journey with you and co-designing and co-developing, and you know, walking in your shoes and swapping war stories. It's been wonderful. Thank you. So I think your lessons learned have been great. And so what does success look like for you with BidHive? Do you see it being rolled out beyond bid team and subject matter experts? Can you ever imagine you know, executives or sales teams using it?
Yes, I can, to a certain degree. So I think it's more for our organisation that I can see it being adopted in kind of different capacities within different parts of our business, because of the nature of what each element of our organisation does. So there are elements that would be suitable and more apt for certain people. So our business development teams across the business, for example, they would be more involved and more kind of intent on seeing all of the kind of the pipeline activity, the what's active, what's live, what's going on, what are the success ratios. Whereas the kind of, I suppose, the executive team will just be looking at the dashboard, the high level kind of numbers. So they wouldn't really want to boil down to the detail behind it. But they would have the ability to do that, and I think that's one of the key features, that actually you can do that. You can click on something which will kind of drill down further and further, and it's kind of, I suppose the phrase is, how deep does the rabbit hole go? Yeah. It's kind of how granular do you want to get, and but from a bid, sales, marketing, contracts perspective, then every single element of BidHive is relevant. But we've also got colleagues across the business in things like our clinical governance team. Now, they don't really get too involved in the kind of the bids themselves. They wouldn't really need to worry too much about the metrics, the statistics, the KPIs. But they would be very involved in the content creation and the content evolution, so that when they're reviewing content that's been perhaps developed 3 or 4 months ago, and there's a new regulation that comes out, they would then be kind of inputting that kind of updated regulation, that updated process and clinical expertise directly into BidHive, so that it's there ready and waiting for when we need it for our next bid that calls on it.
Awesome. Well, for the love of bidding, there is something for everybody. And thank you, and welcome to our community of practice at BidHive, which we're building out. And I think what we can relate to from your experience is that, you know, change will always be inevitable in business, and you know, there'll be always new products and new market changes, new executive, new organizational structures and transitions. And I think you know, this inevitably brings shifts and changes in the business strategy, and I think you've really demonstrated a beautiful execution of that, but also done with grace. And I just want to commend you on actually staying with us while we're a baby company, building out, going global, but also being able to retain and sell the platform into an organization that has actually gone through such a massive M&A. I mean, often, you know, they shake the tree and something gets, you know, lost along the way. And you know, thank you for really championing us. And I think that's a real testament to your change management leadership, that you've managed to embed us into your practice. So thank you. And I hope our community learns a lot from you. And put your details on our LinkedIn group. I'm sure people have got lots and lots of questions on everything from how did you do your business case to, you know, what materials are you rolling out, or you know, anything that anyone can learn from you. I'm sure that you've got so much knowledge having gone through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, because I think having BidHive in there, and particularly whilst we were at the point in time that we were revisiting our own processes, it's enabled us to actually really put our own process under the microscope and identify what needs to change within our process, alongside actually how do we use BidHive to support that and improve it and enhance it, and it's working really well. And I'm not saying this is it now. We are constantly changing, yeah. And we're not averse to that.
Awesome.